Hello there! Unless you're very new or not inclined, many of us have delved into the world of Gposing in one way or another, and have taken many striking photos of our own champions of Eorzea, or even the world itself. Over the years, I've heard many lament on how they don't really know what they're doing, or that they don't know how to take spectacular Gposes like they see from others, and I would like to shed some light on this with my own personal methodology. Now, this method requires no external programs such as Gshade or Creation Magics. I want this to be accessible for all who dwell in Eorzea. However, to show one point I will be making, I will use Gshade to better visualize that which I speak of, but it won't be something you will necessarily need. Now, let's get to it. What is Gposing but virtual photography? So it would stand to reason that we could employ the same theories. I'm no photography major, but from my time as an amateur, I've picked up some very useful things. First one being the most important, lighting. Lighting is so important, not only to set your mood, but also to ensure your focal piece, what you wish to focus on, is highlighted accordingly. Thankfully, in 14, you have a generous range of lighting options, such as lighting settings, where you can place light sources and manually adjust their RGB levels, something you'll have to play around with to see what suits your fancy. Character lighting, which is a slider setting for illuminating only characters, big surprise. And there's the one I personally use the most, manual brightness adjustment in the general settings tab. This, once enabled, will allow you to manually adjust the exposure of your photo, making even the darkest of places bright enough for your piece. I do recommend playing around with this as much as you can. The second thing I've picked up is composition, where everything in your photo is and deciding where you want your focus to be. To cover every aspect of composition would honestly be a whole video series in itself, and there are many videos on this, which I will link in the description if you would like to study more on that. But I will share the one thing that I always return to for composition: maths. Yes, I know, shock and horror, numbers, oh no. But this is actually something that will become intuitive over time. There's what we call the golden ratio, and it is essentially a formula, and with this formula you can divide the photograph into 9 rectangles along 2 horizontal and 2 vertical lines, and this is known as the phi grid. Now, to understand how we can use this for better composition, we can look at some examples on the internet here and see how they're utilized. See how the artist has put their focus piece around the intersection of the grids? And they have the golden spiral, or in this case the Fibonacci spiral, overlaid on top. The Fibonacci spiral is way too much to cover here, so I'll just put a link into the description below. You can essentially use this as a diagram for your own shots, and I'll demonstrate. Third thing I want to go over is your depth of field. Depth of field, in essence, separates what your photo is focusing on, your focal piece, from the rest of the background. If you compare it to our eyes, when we focus on a particular object, our eyes blur out everything else, while what we're looking at becomes more sharp and vivid. This is the same effect we want to achieve for our focal piece, and can be adjusted in the general settings here in depth of field. When enabled, the lower the F value here is, the blurrier your background will become. So depending on how much focus you wish to place on your focal piece, you can adjust this however you want. Say you intend to put your character in a much sharper focus, but you still want to retain a modicum of detail. You can just raise the value to about F11. Now, posing itself, I won't cover in depth as part of the fun with the creative process. So for this, I'll encourage you to look at your emotes tab in your motion settings and play around with them. See what tickles your fancy. I will add that the track camera button is good for if you want your character to look a certain way with their eyes, but not with their whole head. For supplement, there are so many effects, stickers and motions you can use with Gpose that I implore all of you to have a play around with. My favorite being the cinematic frame you can find in effect/frame settings, but that's personally for my shots. Use what you've learned about lighting, composition, and depth of field to consistently produce shots that you can be proud of every time. And who knows when this knowledge may come in handy for the future. This is all transferable to real-life photography, so if you ever feel like dipping your toes into that field, and I do recommend it, you'll have some foreknowledge with you. That's it for this video. If you watched throughout, thank you very much. Do let me know if you liked it, and if you have any further questions, I can answer those in the comment section to the best of my ability. I do plan to upload more, so you can sub for that if you wish. For the meantime, you can find me on twitch.tv/ebbingcrescent for shenanigans. I wish you all the best and do take care.